WVLA-TV, a new vision for Louisiana. From 33 Metro News, news with Heath Allen and Sonya Forte. First weather with Mike Reeves and Rich Lenz with Big Board Sports. This is Baton Rouge Tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Baton Rouge Tonight.
Here's what's happening. They call themselves the American Cadre. During the Cuban uprising at the Oakdale Detention Center last year, a group of American prisoners inside became the unknown hostages. They're now filing a formal complaint with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, claiming the government did nothing to protect them during the ordeal and, in fact, put their lives in danger.
It got to the point to where one Cuban's trying to protect you, where another Cuban's trying to kill you.
During the almost 2-week-long Cuban crisis at Oakdale, the American prisoners were never seen. They were kept together in a dormitory under constant guard. They, too, were hostages, but nobody was negotiating for their release. Now 22 of those prisoners who called themselves the American Cadre are asking for restitution. They say prison officials could have done more to prevent the uprising.
We've seen the tension building in the Cubans. We've seen several hundred gathered in groups, and at the indication of knowing something was going to happen, there was things they could have did to prevent the whole population of Cubans being on the grounds at one time.
A federal study on prison officials' handling of the Oakdale crisis scolds them for not recognizing the signs leading up to the takeover, but praises them for their handling of the hostage situation, which ended with no loss of life. Louis Unglesby, who represents the American Cadre, says his clients were literally caught in the middle, mistreated by both sides.
They felt, at least, that if the hostage takers ever had to make a statement, they would start with them before they would move against any of the prison officials or the guards. So they were in great jeopardy of being sacrificed, so to speak, in the event that that had to be done.
Well, the federal government now has 6 months to answer the complaint, and then the American Cadre may consider filing a federal lawsuit. Tomorrow night, we'll hear for the first time what life was like for the American prisoners during the crisis at Oakdale. Their story is one of courage and the American spirit.
Happening around Louisiana tonight, local school funding went under the knife this afternoon as the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education voted to go along with the Buddy Roemer plan to cut the state support system to local systems. Non-instructional personnel feel the brunt, and after emotional marches and protests, the board bit the bullet and went with the Roemer cuts.
I'm not really sure about this, but I think that it is the best solution at this time for what we're faced with in education in the weeks and months and year or 2 years or 3 years ahead of us. And inaction will get us nowhere.
The vote on the board was 7 in favor of the Roemer cuts and 4 opposed.
Well, since the beginning of this year, couples getting married in Louisiana have had to get an AIDS test before they can get a marriage license. The legislature passed that law last year, and now during this session, there is an effort to repeal the law. Opponents of the requirement say that the tests are too expensive, that the confidentiality of the medical records is not ensured, and most important, it targets a low-risk group.
The bill, the intention of the bill was commendable. It was directed at the least necessary group of people.
The Senate Judiciary Committee approved the repeal, and it now goes to the Senate for consideration.
The Health State Department can now charge hefty fees for permits they give to restaurants and grocery stores. The bill allowing these fees was pushed by Governor Roemer during the last special session of the legislature. At least one local store owner says he will now have to raise his prices, and he's posted a notice telling his customers that the governor is to blame.
So are you going to keep that hanging up there for your customers to see?
I sure am. And I sure hope they read it all.
Have you gotten any comments from people about it?
I don't think we ought to put that on the news.
You can't tell me any of them?
No. They just specifically believe that there ought to be another election held today. And put Mr. Roemer out of work.
And Etier says he knows that the state is in a financial bind, but he feels Governor Roemer is picking on the little guys.
And there was even more talk, though, Sonya, of increased fees at the state capitol today.
It looks like it will also cost you more money to get your car inspected. That is, if a bill passed by the House Transportation Committee becomes law. Just one day after the committee refused to raise the inspection fee to $12.50, they came back today and approved an increase to $10. The Roemer administration had pushed the higher increase of $12.50 to raise $11 million for state police. The increase to $10 would leave them $3 million short in the budget.
Well, the future of Assemblies of God ministers is still being decided by AOG officials. AOG spokesman Julene Turnage says ministers still working for Swaggart will lose their credentials if they continue to do so. In the meantime, the president of Swaggart Bible College, Ray Trask, has resigned from his post to avoid losing his AOG credentials. The AOG elders are meeting through Thursday to discuss the situation.
Meanwhile, in New York, Deborah Murphy, the prostitute who claimed that TV evangelist Jimmy Swaggart was a regular customer of hers, said today that she plans to go back to Indiana and finish high school after promoting her revelations in Penthouse magazine. Today's news conference in the offices of Penthouse magazine was the first event in a 2-week media tour.
To get undressed, and I would leave my panties on sometimes take them off. Just want you to pose nude for him on different positions.
How often did he visit you?
Once, twice a month.
How much per session?
Mostly $20.
Murphy says she will return to Princeton, Indiana, to her children and parents when her current tour is finished.
Well, around the country tonight, by the time votes are counted in California, Governor Michael Dukakis is expected to wrap up the 150 delegates necessary for him to win the Democratic presidential nomination. Dukakis ran away with the vote in New Jersey, taking 76% over Jesse Jackson's 19%. Dukakis won New Mexico by 63%, is expected to win big in California and Montana. Jackson has vowed to keep his campaign alive until the convention in Atlanta next month. George Bush wrapped up the Republican nomination last month and won tonight's primaries unopposed.
In Metro Check tonight, the Brian Touye family will soon be reunited in Arizona, but it hasn't been without a lot of hard work and help from folks here in Baton Rouge.
We moved in this house, and then 1 week after we moved in this house, Brian got hurt. Oh, I never unpacked.
Just this past weekend, Brian Touye's mom packed up their belongings and loaded up, headed out to join him and his father Robert in Phoenix, Arizona. Just a couple of weeks ago, young Brian boarded a special medical jet bound for Phoenix, Arizona to be reunited with his dad. You see, 8 years ago, Brian had been struck by lightning. Since that time, he's had a brilliant mind and a totally incapacitated body. A year ago, his father had to move to get work, and Brian has just now rejoined him. But that was only half the job. The next came moving the rest of the family, another incredibly expensive effort. But along came Mercury Mayflower Moving Company, offering special help, and for a special reason.
I have a child who's handicapped, Sonya. He had difficulty at birth, and throughout his growing up years, we've been involved with other people that have children with handicaps, and so we have a special empathy, you know, for the problems that people with children who have disabilities are faced with, and that was really why we felt like we wanted to help.
So Mercury Mayflower and Lynn Robbins not only shouldered some furniture, but also shouldered some of the financial responsibility, so that Susan Touye and the rest of her family could join young Brian and his father in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, the move is going to cost about $4,000, but a lot of folks have already stepped up to help out. Some of the local banks have even offered help as well. Tomorrow, we'll introduce you to some of those very, very nice people. Heath Allen, WVLA Channel 33, Metro News.
And once again, tomorrow night, we'll introduce you to some of the other folks who've joined in the effort to help the family, charitable people, and some generous banks. That tomorrow night.
Well, we've had no shortage of rain here in Louisiana today, but Mike, you say they've got a drought in the Midwest.
They sure do, and it's starting to worry the folks up in Illinois and Indiana and Iowa and Kansas. Several weeks there without rain is beginning to affect the Midwestern crops, and if it continues for the next few weeks, well, you could be paying more for groceries when this fall comes around. Here's what we have on the home scene at 10 o'clock, a partly cloudy sky. The afternoon clouds are beginning to clear away for the night, and also all the showers that were around Baton Rouge this evening have ended for the night. Temperature now is 78 degrees, humidity is 80%, the wind is calm, and the air pressure is steady. Officially, we've had a trace of rainfall at the airport. Some of you, though, have had much more than that. Well, check out the weather around Louisiana at 10 o'clock. It is nearly clear now from Alexandria northward through Shreveport and Monroe, but in the southern half of the state, we still have a few clouds lingering now down toward the Gulf of Mexico. But as I mentioned a moment ago, almost all the showers we had this afternoon and earlier this evening are gone for the night, and it will be dry until tomorrow afternoon. Here's a satellite view of the clouds, and you can see that most of the country was under the sun today. Generally clear weather from the Rockies almost all the way to the Atlantic coast, and from Louisiana northward up into the northern plains and the northern Mississippi Valley. Just a few clouds down over the southeast with a few showers there this afternoon, and also some clouds over southern Florida. Check out the national weather map. It shows you generally warm weather prevailing throughout most of the country. It is a little bit cooler to the north of this frontal system you see up here. Mild temperatures to the north of the front, but it is warm tonight over most of the country, and as you can see, dry throughout the nation's breadbasket, the Midwest. They need the rain very badly, but no sign of any rain for that part of the country for the next several days. Here's our forecast for tonight. It will be clearing and warm with a low near 69 degrees. Tomorrow brings a slight chance of afternoon showers. Otherwise, it will be partly cloudy. Look for a high near 90 degrees. Tomorrow night, a slight chance of showers until about this time, and then clearing and warm with a low in the upper 60s. Rain probability for the rest of tonight is 10%, 20% for tomorrow afternoon, 20% early on Wednesday night. So tomorrow's weather is going to be very much like today's.
Okay, we'll be ready for it. Thanks, Mike.
And how will the erosion of Louisiana's coastlines affect the people who live there? That story on Big Board Sports.
And talking to your children about AIDS. Don't go away.